The scream tore through the walls of the apartment building, raw and primal, and Narcissus Corvinus heard it from 3 blocks away. He stopped mid-stride on the empty street, his pale hand frozen halfway to the door of his sleek black car. The night air carried sounds to him that no human could detect, and this one made something ancient and protective flare to life in his chest. Pain, terror. A woman alone, fighting for her life. He should not care. He was the vampire king of the Eastern Territories, and human suffering was as common as rainfall. For 3 centuries he had walked this earth, and he had learned long ago to close himself off from the endless tide of mortal anguish. His world was one of blood courts and political maneuvering, of maintaining the delicate balance between his kind and the humans who remained blissfully ignorant of what hunted in their cities after dark. But this scream was different. It called to something buried deep within him, something he thought he had lost when his heart stopped beating in 1724. Another scream split the night, weaker this time. Dying. Narcissus moved. To human eyes he would have simply vanished, but he was running faster than any mortal could track, his white hair streaming behind him like a banner. His black coat billowed as he took the corner, his crimson eyes scanning the buildings until he found the source. A rundown apartment complex on the edge of the warehouse district, the kind of place people went when they had nowhere else to go. He was inside in seconds, his supernatural senses guiding him up 3 flights of stairs to a door at the end of a dim hallway. The smell of blood hit him like a physical force, rich and copper-sweet, and beneath it the unmistakable scent of birth. His fangs lengthened involuntarily, but he forced the hunger down with the iron control of centuries. The door was locked. He could hear harsh breathing inside, punctuated by soft, desperate sobs. No other heartbeat nearby. She was alone. Narcissus did not hesitate. He took 1 step back and drove his shoulder into the door with enough force to tear it from its hinges. The wood splintered, the lock mechanism flying across the room in pieces, and he stepped into a nightmare. The apartment was small and shabby, lit only by a single lamp that cast harsh shadows across the scene. A young woman lay on a narrow bed pushed against the far wall, her dark hair plastered to her face with sweat, her body contorted in agony. Blood soaked the sheets beneath her, far too much blood, and her skin had taken on the grayish pallor that spoke of imminent death. But it was her eyes that stopped him. They flew open at the crash of the door, and for a moment they locked with his. Deep brown eyes, glazed with pain and fear and exhaustion, but still fighting, still refusing to give up. "Please," she gasped, and the word was barely a whisper. "Please help. My baby." Narcissus had seen death countless times. He had dealt it and witnessed it and walked through its aftermath with barely a flicker of emotion. But something about this woman, this moment, cracked through 3 centuries of careful detachment like a hammer through ice. He crossed the room in a blur, his trained eyes assessing the situation with clinical precision. She was hemorrhaging badly, the baby clearly in distress. Without intervention, both would be dead within minutes. "I am going to touch you," he said, his voice low and commanding. "Do not be afraid." She let out a weak laugh that turned into a sob. Too late for that. His hands, pale as marble and just as cold, moved with surprising gentleness as he examined her. She flinched at the temperature of his skin, but did not pull away. She had no strength left to pull away. "The baby is in the wrong position," he said. "You cannot deliver like this. You need a hospital." "No money," she whispered. "No insurance. They said to come back when labor started, but I couldn't. The baby came early, and I couldn't." Another contraction seized her and she screamed, arching off the bed. Narcissus caught her shoulders, holding her steady as her body fought a battle it could not win. When the spasm passed, she collapsed back, tears streaming down her face. "I am going to die," she said, and it was not a question. "But please, please save my baby. Cut me open if you have to. Just please." "No one is dying tonight," Narcissus said, and there was steel in his voice. "I will not allow it." He stood and stripped off his coat, rolling up the sleeves of his white shirt with swift, efficient movements. The apartment had a tiny kitchen, and he found what he needed with preternatural speed: clean towels, a bottle of cheap vodka, A knife. Not proper medical instruments, but he had lived through centuries when medicine was far more primitive than this. "What are you?" the woman gasped as he returned. She was staring at him now, really seeing him for the first time despite her agony. His paper-white skin, his snow-colored hair, his eyes that glowed faintly red in the dim light. "You are not human." "No," he said simply. "I am not. My name is Narcissus Corvinus, and I am a vampire. I am also your only chance of survival, so I suggest you trust me." She should have been terrified. She should have screamed or tried to flee. Instead, she let out another weak laugh. "A vampire, of course. This is how I die. Killed by a vampire while giving birth." "I am not going to kill you," Narcissus said, pouring vodka over his hands and the knife. "I am going to save you. Both of you. But I need you to listen to me very carefully. Can you do that?" She nodded, her eyes never leaving his face. Even through the pain, he could see the intelligence there, the desperate hope warring with disbelief. "The baby needs to turn," he said. "I am going to reach inside and reposition the child manually. It will hurt." "Everything hurts," she whispered. "Not like this." He moved to the bed, positioning himself between her legs with the clinical detachment of someone who had seen and done far worse things than this. "What is your name?" "Luna," she gasped. "Luna Zhao." "Luna." He said it carefully, tasting the name. "I need you to breathe through this. Can you do that for me?" She nodded again, and then he began. His hands, so cold and strong, moved inside her with a precision that was only possible because of what he was. He could feel the baby's position, the way the umbilical cord had wrapped around the tiny body, the frantically beating heart that was starting to slow. Luna screamed, her hands fisting in the sheets, but he did not stop, could not stop. "Almost there," he murmured, his voice low and soothing despite the intensity of his focus. "You are doing beautifully, Luna. Stay with me." She was fading. He could hear her heartbeat starting to stutter, could smell her life draining away into the soaked sheets. The baby was turned now, in the correct position, but she had lost too much blood. She would not survive the delivery. Not without help. Not without him. Narcissus made the decision in a split second, the kind of instant calculation that had kept him alive for 3 centuries. He pulled back one hand and raised it to his mouth, biting down hard on his own wrist until blood welled up, dark and ancient. "Drink," he commanded, pressing his wrist to Luna's lips. Her eyes widened in shock and she tried to turn her head away, but he cupped the back of her skull with his free hand, holding her steady. "Drink or die," he said, and there was no room for argument in his voice. "My blood will give you the strength to survive this. It will not turn you. You must drink from me 3 times for that to happen, but it will heal you enough. Trust me." Maybe it was the desperation. Maybe it was something in his eyes, some flicker of genuine concern in that ancient, inhuman face. Or maybe she simply had no other choice. But Luna opened her mouth and drank. The effect was immediate. Color flooded back into her face, and her heartbeat strengthened, steadying into a powerful rhythm. Her eyes widened further as the pain receded, replaced by a surge of strength that had to feel almost supernatural. "What did you do to me?" she gasped as he pulled his wrist away, the wound already closing. "Gave you a chance," he said. "Now push." And she did. With Narcissus guiding her, his cool hands steady and sure, Luna pushed with strength she should not have had. The baby crowned, and then with one final, agonizing effort, the child was born. The sound of a baby's cry filled the small apartment, loud and indignant and gloriously alive. Narcissus moved with swift efficiency, cutting the cord with the sterilized knife, clearing the baby's mouth and nose, wrapping the tiny body in a clean towel. A boy, small but healthy, his little fists waving in outrage at his sudden entrance into the world. Luna sobbed, reaching out with shaking hands, and Narcissus placed the baby in her arms with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone so deadly. "A boy," she whispered, tears streaming down her face as she cradled her son against her chest. I have a boy. Narcissus stood, looking down at the two of them, the mother and child, alive against all odds. Something twisted in his chest, something he had not felt in longer than he could remember, not hunger or bloodlust or political ambition, something softer, something dangerously close to tenderness. You are still bleeding, he said, forcing his voice back to cool practicality. I need to deliver the afterbirth and ensure there are no complications. Then I am taking you to a hospital. I told you, I cannot afford. I will take care of it, he interrupted. Do not argue with me. She stared at him, this impossible creature who had crashed into her life and saved it, and slowly nodded. The next hour passed in a blur of activity. Narcissus delivered the placenta, checking it carefully to ensure it was intact. He cleaned and dressed Luna with the same efficient care, changing the sheets and making sure she was stable. His phone calls were brief and commanding, summoning the resources of his considerable power. A private hospital, the best physicians money could buy, a car waiting outside. Luna watched him through it all, her baby nursing at her breast, her eyes never quite leaving his face. Why are you doing this? She finally asked as he lifted her easily into his arms, preparing to carry her down to the car. Vampires do not save humans. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows nothing, Narcissus said. Your kind tells stories about mine, and most of them are lies or exaggerations. We are not all monsters. But you drink blood. Yes. He did not deny it as he carried her into the hallway, moving slowly enough that the motion would not jostle her or the baby. I drink blood to survive, but that does not mean I kill indiscriminately. My kind has laws, a code of honor. We take only what we need, and never from the unwilling or the innocent. Then what am I? Luna asked softly. You saved me. What does that make me to you? Narcissus was silent as they descended the stairs. It was a very good question, and he did not have an answer. Or rather, he had several answers, none of which made sense. She was nothing to him, a random human he had happened to hear in distress. He should have left her to her fate, should have walked away and forgotten her the moment his feet hit the pavement. But he had not walked away, and now, with her in his arms and her child's heartbeat fluttering like a bird against his chest, he knew he could not simply hand her over to the doctors and disappear into the night. I do not know, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper, but I intend to find out. The hospital was a gleaming tower of glass and steel on the other side of the city, the kind of place where celebrities and billionaires went for their private care. Narcissus carried Luna through a side entrance where a team of physicians was already waiting, summoned by his earlier call. They took her immediately, their faces carefully neutral despite the obvious questions in their eyes. Who was this pale, regal figure who commanded such instant obedience? Who was this girl he brought bleeding and exhausted into their emergency ward? And why did no one dare ask him any questions? Narcissus paced the private waiting room like a caged wolf, his hands clasped behind his back, his red eyes fixed on the door. He should leave. He had fulfilled his obligation, had saved the woman and her child. His presence here only complicated matters. But he did not leave. 2 hours later, a doctor emerged, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and capable hands. She is stable, the doctor reported. The blood loss was severe, but she is responding well to transfusions. The baby is healthy, all things considered. Underweight, but that is to be expected given the circumstances. They will both need to stay for observation, but I believe they will make a full recovery. Good, Narcissus said. I want the best care available. Money is no object. The doctor hesitated. Mr. Corvinus, Miss Zhao has no insurance and no listed emergency contacts. When she is released, she will need a place to go, ongoing medical care, support for the baby. I will provide it. The words were out of his mouth before he fully considered them. The doctor blinked in surprise, but quickly covered it with a professional nod. Of course, sir. I will make sure everything is arranged. When she left, Narcissus stood alone in the waiting room, staring at his own reflection in the darkened window. What was he doing? He was the vampire king, not a charity organization for destitute humans. He had responsibilities, a court to manage, territories to defend. He could not afford distractions, especially not a mortal woman and her helpless infant. But when they finally let him in to see her, all those rational arguments evaporated like morning mist. Luna was asleep in the hospital bed, her face peaceful for the first time since he had seen her. The baby slept in a clear bassinet beside her, swaddled tightly, his tiny features relaxed in dreams. They looked so fragile, so painfully temporary. Human lives flickered by so quickly, here and gone in what felt to him like the span of a breath. He should not care. He had watched humans live and die for centuries without letting it touch him. But as he stood there in the dim hospital room, watching Luna's chest rise and fall with each steady breath, Narcissus admitted the truth to himself. It was already too late. Something had happened when their eyes met in that shabby apartment. Some connection had been forged in blood and desperation and the fierce determination not to let death win. He cared. And caring, he was beginning to realize, was the most dangerous thing he had done in 300 years. Luna's eyes fluttered open as if sensing his presence. She turned her head on the pillow, finding him standing in the shadows by the window, and a small smile curved her lips. "You are still here," she whispered. "I am still here," he confirmed. Why? It was the same question she had asked before, and he still did not have a good answer. So instead of speaking, he moved closer to the bed, his footsteps silent on the linoleum floor. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I was run over by a truck." Luna's smile widened slightly. "But alive, thanks to you." "You were very brave," Narcissus said. "Most would have given up." "I had to fight," Luna said simply. "For him." Her eyes moved to the sleeping baby. "He deserves a chance at life, even if I have no idea how I'm going to give him one. Where is the father?" The question came out harder than Narcissus intended, and he saw Luna flinch slightly. "Gone," she said after a moment. "He wanted me to. He did not want the baby. Said we were too young, too poor, that it would ruin our lives. When I refused, he left. I have not heard from him in 6 months." Narcissus felt a flare of anger, hot and unexpected. "He abandoned you?" "Yes." Luna's voice was steady, but he could hear the hurt beneath it. "He did. And I was doing okay, you know. I was working 2 jobs, saving money, getting ready. But then I got sick, and I lost one job, and then the other one cut my hours, and the baby came early, and—" Her voice cracked. "Everything fell apart." "It will not fall apart now," Narcissus heard himself say. "I told you, I will take care of it." Luna's eyes found his face, searching. "Why? You do not know me. I am nothing to you." "You are wrong," Narcissus said, and the words felt like a confession. "You are not nothing." Before Luna could respond, the baby stirred in his bassinet, making soft mewling sounds. Luna reached over instinctively, but Narcissus was faster. He lifted the tiny bundle with surprising care, supporting the child's head with one pale hand. "May I?" he asked, and Luna nodded, her eyes wide. Narcissus looked down at the baby in his arms. So small, so vulnerable. This child who had fought his way into the world against impossible odds, whose mother had refused to give up even when death was dragging her down. The baby's eyes opened, unfocused and hazy, but seeming to stare right up at Narcissus's face. "What will you name him?" Narcissus asked softly. "I do not know," Luna admitted. "I had names picked out, but now none of them seem right. He is a fighter. He needs a fighter's name." "Xavier," Narcissus said. The name came to him fully formed, and he did not question it. "It means bright, splendid, a new house." Luna considered it, then smiled. Xavier Zhao. I like it." She paused. "But how did you think of that? That is not a common name." "I knew someone once," Narcissus said, still looking at the baby. "A very long time ago. He was brave beyond measure. It seems fitting." He handed Xavier back to his mother, watching as Luna cradled her son close. The scene was painfully domestic, painfully human. He had no place in it, and yet he could not seem to make himself leave. "The doctor said you have nowhere to go when you are released," he said finally. Luna's face closed off slightly, pride warring with desperation. "I will figure something out." "No," Narcissus said flatly. "You will come with me." "What?" Luna stared at him. "I have a residence in the city, large, private, secure. You and Xavier will stay there until you are fully recovered. You will have medical care, food, everything you need. No arguments." "I cannot accept that," Luna said, but her voice wavered. "That is too much. I do not even know you." "You know I saved your life," Narcissus said. "You know I am not going to hurt you. What else do you need to know?" "Everything!" Luna's voice rose slightly, making Xavier stir against her chest. She lowered it immediately. "You are a vampire. I do not know what that means. I do not know what you want from me. I do not know if this is some kind of trick or trap or it is not." Narcissus moved closer, his red eyes intense. "Luna, I am offering you help because you need it and because I want to give it. There are no strings attached. You are not a prisoner. You are not food. You are not payment for some debt. You are a woman who nearly died alone, and I cannot—" He paused, searching for words. "I cannot stop thinking about it, about you, about what would have happened if I had not heard you scream." Luna's breath caught. "You care," she said wonderingly. "You actually care what happens to us." "Against all logic and 3 centuries of better judgment, yes." A faint, wry smile touched Narcissus's lips. "I care, so please, let me help you, at least until you are back on your feet." Luna was quiet for a long moment, looking down at Xavier's sleeping face. When she looked back up at Narcissus, there was something new in her eyes. Not quite trust, not yet, but the beginning of it. "Okay," she said softly. "But only until I recover, and I am going to pay you back somehow. I do not take charity." "It is not charity," Narcissus said. "Consider it an investment." "In what?" He smiled, a real smile this time, showing just a hint of fang. "I have not decided yet." 3 days later, Narcissus carried Luna and Xavier out of the hospital and into the waiting car. Luna was still weak, moving carefully, but the color had returned to her cheeks and her eyes were clear. Xavier was bundled against her chest in a soft blue blanket, his tiny face peaceful in sleep. The drive across the city took them from the shabby warehouse district to a neighborhood of old elegance, where historic buildings stood alongside modern high-rises. Narcissus's residence turned out to be a converted cathedral, all soaring ceilings and stained glass, now fitted with every modern luxury imaginable. "You live in a church?" Luna asked, staring up at the building as Narcissus helped her from the car. "A former church," he corrected. "It was deconsecrated in the 1950s and abandoned for decades. I bought it and renovated it 15 years ago. Vampires are not actually harmed by religious symbols despite what the stories say. That is pure superstition." "What is true then?" Luna asked as he guided her inside. "About vampires? Sunlight kills us, though we can tolerate overcast days for short periods. We need blood to survive. We are stronger and faster than humans, and we heal from almost any injury that does not involve decapitation or fire. We can live for millennia if we are not killed, and we are bound by certain laws and codes that govern our society." He led her through the vast entrance hall, past pillars of white marble and soaring arches of stone. The space had been transformed from a place of worship into a stunning home, with comfortable furniture arranged around a massive fireplace, art on the walls, and books lining floor-to-ceiling shelves. "This is incredible," Luna breathed. "Your room is upstairs," Narcissus said. "I thought you might prefer privacy. There is a nursery adjoining it, already furnished. If you need anything else, just ask." He carried Xavier while Luna climbed the curved staircase, taking it slowly. The room he showed her to was beautiful, decorated in soft creams and grays, with a large 4-poster bed and windows that looked out over the city. The nursery beyond was perfect, complete with a crib, changing table, and everything a newborn could need. When did you have time to arrange all this? Luna asked, staring around in wonder. I have people who handle such things, Narcissus said. He placed Xavier carefully in the crib, and the baby slept on, undisturbed. You should rest. You are still recovering. Wait. Luna caught his arm as he turned to go. Her hand looked so small against his pale skin, so warm compared to his coldness. Thank you. I know I have said it before, but I do not think you understand how much this means. You saved my life. You saved Xavier's life. And now this. She gestured around the room. I do not know how I will ever repay you. You do not have to repay me, Narcissus said. But he did not pull his arm away from her touch. Rest, Luna. We will talk more later. He left her there, closing the door softly behind him. As he descended the stairs, he found his second in command waiting in the entrance hall. Demetrius Valen was old, nearly as old as Narcissus himself, with the same white skin and hair that marked their kind. His eyes were a paler red, like garnets instead of rubies. My king, Demetrius said, his voice carefully neutral. I heard you acquired house guests. News travels fast, Narcissus said. You brought a human woman and her infant child to live in your private residence, Demetrius said flatly. Of course the court is talking about it. They want to know what she is to you. They want to know if you have taken a pet. She is not a pet, Narcissus said, and there was warning in his voice. Demetrius held up his hands. I meant no offense. I am simply telling you what others are saying. You have to admit, this is highly unusual behavior. In 3 centuries, I have never seen you show interest in a human. I am not showing interest, Narcissus said. I am providing aid to someone in need. Out of the goodness of your heart? Demetrius's tone was skeptical. Narcissus was silent for a moment. I heard her scream, he said finally. I should have ignored it, but I could not. And now? He trailed off, uncertain how to explain what he was feeling. Now you are involved, Demetrius finished. And involvement with humans is dangerous, my friend. You know this. Our world and theirs do not mix well. I know, Narcissus said. But I am not sending her away. Not yet. The council will want to meet her, Demetrius warned. They will want to ensure she is not a security risk. Then I will introduce her when she is ready. Until then, she is under my protection. Make sure everyone understands that. Demetrius nodded slowly. As you command, my king. When he left, Narcissus stood alone in the vast hall, listening to the sounds of the old building settling around him. And from upstairs, so faint a human would never hear it, the sound of Luna's heartbeat and Xavier's smaller, faster one. He had taken responsibility for them now, for their safety, their welfare, their lives. It was a burden he had not sought, but one he found himself unwilling to put down. Dangerous, Demetrius had said. Yes, it was dangerous. But Narcissus had lived for 300 years playing it safe. Perhaps it was time to take a risk. The days that followed fell into a strange kind of rhythm. Luna spent most of her time in her room recovering, caring for Xavier, getting her strength back. Narcissus made sure she had everything she needed, but he kept his distance, not wanting to overwhelm her. He was aware of how surreal this must be for her, living in a vampire's home, dependent on a creature she had every reason to fear. But slowly, cautiously, Luna began to emerge from her self-imposed isolation. A week after arriving, Narcissus found her in his library late one evening, standing in front of the shelves with Xavier asleep against her shoulder. I hope I am not intruding, she said when she noticed him in the doorway. I could not sleep, and I saw the light on. You are not intruding, Narcissus said. This is your home too for now. You may go wherever you wish. Luna looked around the room, her eyes wide. I have never seen so many books. You must love to read. I have had 3 centuries to build the collection, Narcissus said. Reading is one of the few pleasures that never grows old. Every book is a new world, a new perspective. Immortality would be unbearably dull without them. I love reading too, Luna said softly. Or I did. I have not had much time for it lately. Working 2 jobs, trying to keep up with doctor appointments, prepare for the baby. She trailed off. You can read now, Narcissus said. Anything you want. Though fair warning, some of these books are quite old and rather dry. Luna smiled, and it transformed her face. She was beautiful, Narcissus realized, not in the polished, perfect way of models and actresses, but in a more genuine way, warm and real and alive. Tell me something, she said, moving closer. How did you become a vampire? Or is that rude to ask? Not rude, Narcissus said, merely a very long story. We have time. Luna settled into one of the leather chairs by the fireplace, adjusting Xavier so he remained comfortable against her chest. I would like to know about you, about what you are. Narcissus considered refusing. He did not often speak of his past, not even to other vampires, but something about Luna's open, curious expression made him want to share. I was born in 1699, he began, taking the chair opposite her, in a small village in what is now Romania. My family was poor but respectable. My father was a blacksmith, my mother a healer. I had 2 younger sisters. I was meant to follow in my father's footsteps, learn the trade, marry a local girl, live a simple life. What happened? Luna asked softly. War, Narcissus said. There was always war in those days. The Ottoman Empire was pushing into Eastern Europe, and armies marched back and forth across our lands. One night, soldiers came to our village. Not Ottomans, but our own people, or so we thought. They wore the uniforms of the regional lord, but they were not human. Luna's eyes widened. Vampires. Yes. They were part of an old bloodline, one that fed indiscriminately on the local population. They took me because I fought them when they tried to take my sisters. I actually managed to wound one of them with my father's hammer. It impressed their leader, a creature named Vladius. He decided I would make a better vampire than Emil. Did you want it? Luna asked. To become one of them? No, Narcissus said. But by the time I understood what was happening, it was too late. Vladius drained me to the point of death, then made me drink his blood. I died on a blood-soaked floor in my family's workshop, and I woke 3 days later in a crypt beneath the Lord's castle, no longer human. Your family, Luna whispered. What happened to them? They believed I was dead. Vladius made sure of it, even staged a funeral. I was buried in an empty grave while I lay transforming underground. When I finally emerged, I returned to the village once in secret. My mother was weeping at my grave. My father looked like he had aged 10 years in a week. My sisters were terrified and pale. I wanted to go to them, to tell them I was alive, but I knew I could not. I was a monster now. They were better off believing me dead. Luna reached across the space between them and took his hand. Her touch was warm, gentle, achingly human. You are not a monster. I have done monstrous things, Narcissus said. In the beginning I did what Vladius commanded. I fed on innocence. I killed. I was everything you would expect a vampire to be. But you changed, Luna said. You are not that creature anymore. No, Narcissus agreed. I am not. About 50 years after my turning, I challenged Vladius for control of his territory. I won. I killed him and took his place as lord, and I began to change how we operated. I established rules: no killing without cause, no feeding on the unwilling, no touching children. Others of my kind thought I was weak, foolish. Some challenged me. I defeated them all. That is how you became king, Luna said. Yes, over centuries I expanded my territory and my power. Other vampires came to appreciate the stability my laws provided. We could live among humans without constant fear of discovery and retaliation. We could feed without decimating populations. It was better for everyone. Now I rule the Eastern Territories, and my laws are absolute. And yet you are here, taking care of a human woman and her baby, instead of ruling your court, Luna said. There was no accusation in her voice, only curiosity. I have people who handle the day-to-day affairs, Narcissus said. I am still in control, but you are right. I should be more focused on my responsibilities. Instead, I find myself... He paused, looking at her. Distracted. Luna's cheeks flushed slightly. I am sorry. I do not want to be a burden. You are not a burden, Narcissus said. You are a mystery. I do not understand why I care so much about what happens to you. I should not care. You are human, mortal, fleeting. In the span of my existence, your entire life will be barely a moment. Caring for you makes no logical sense. And yet you do, Luna said softly. And yet I do, Narcissus confirmed. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound Xavier's soft breathing and the crackle of the fire. Then Luna spoke again. I care too, she said. About you, I know I should not. You are a vampire. You are ancient and powerful and dangerous. You could kill me without even trying. But when I look at you, all I see is the person who saved my life, the person who has been nothing but kind and generous, the person who holds my baby like he is made of glass. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I should be afraid of you, but I am not. Narcissus felt something shift in his chest. For 300 years he had been alone. He had allies, yes, and subjects who served him, but no one close. No one who saw past the power and the immortality to whatever was left of the man he had once been. Luna saw him, and she was not afraid. You should rest, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. You are still recovering. Luna nodded and stood, cradling Xavier close. But as she passed Narcissus's chair, she paused and leaned down. Her lips brushed against his cold cheek, a feather-light touch that nevertheless sent electricity racing through his entire body. Good night, Narcissus, she whispered. Thank you for trusting me with your story. Then she was gone, leaving him alone with the dying fire and a feeling he could not name. The court of the Vampire King was not located in any one place. It existed in the spaces between, in the forgotten corners of the city where humans rarely ventured. But when the council needed to convene, they gathered in the catacombs beneath the old cathedral, in chambers that had been carved from stone centuries before Narcissus was born. 2 weeks after Luna came to live with him, Narcissus descended into those chambers for a formal council meeting. He had delayed as long as he could, but Demetrius was right. The court needed to meet Luna, to assess the situation, to understand that she was under his protection. The council chamber was circular, lit by candles that burned with an eerie green flame. Around the stone table sat the 6 members of his inner council, all of them ancient vampires of considerable power. Demetrius was there, of course, along with Evangeline Nightshade, his mistress of intelligence, Lucian Draco, his chief enforcer, and 3 others who governed different aspects of his territories. My king, Evangeline said as Narcissus took his seat at the head of the table. Thank you for finally joining us. There was an edge to her voice. Evangeline was old, nearly 400 years, and she did not approve of what she saw as Narcissus's distraction with human affairs. I am here now, Narcissus said calmly. Let us proceed. The first hour of the meeting was routine business. Territory disputes, feeding regulations, reports from outlying regions. Narcissus handled it all with his usual efficiency, listening carefully and making decisions with the weight of centuries of experience. But eventually, inevitably, the conversation turned to Luna. We must discuss the human, Lucian said bluntly. He was younger than the others, only 2 centuries old, but he was direct and honest, which Narcissus appreciated. She lives in your home. She has access to our secrets. What are your intentions regarding her? She is under my protection, Narcissus said. That is all anyone needs to know. With respect, my king, it is not all we need to know, Evangeline said. Is she a pet, a lover, a potential thrall? The distinction matters. She is none of those things, Narcissus said, and his voice hardened. She is a woman who was dying, whom I chose to save. Nothing more. Nothing more. Evangeline's eyebrow arched. You gave her your blood. You brought her into your private residence. You spend every evening with her. This is not nothing, Narcissus. This is obsession. Careful, Narcissus warned. No, I will not be careful, Evangeline said, rising from her seat. I have served you for 200 years, and I have never seen you act like this. You are the vampire king. You do not waste your time playing nursemaid to a human infant. You do not moon over mortal women like some lovesick youth. This is beneath you. Evangeline, Demetrius said warningly. But Narcissus held up a hand. Let her speak. She is right in a way. My behavior has been unusual, but not without reason. He stood, his presence filling the chamber. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. I am 300 years old. I have built an empire from blood and fear and careful strategy. I have protected our kind from discovery and extermination. I have given you all peace, prosperity, and stability. In all that time, I have never asked anything for myself. I have never indulged a personal desire or put my own wishes above the good of our people. Until now. He looked around the table, meeting each set of ancient eyes in turn. Luna Zhao is important to me. I do not fully understand why, and I do not need to explain it to anyone. But she is under my protection, and anyone who threatens her will answer to me personally. Is that clear? There was a moment of heavy silence. Then, one by one, the council members nodded. Even Evangeline, though her lips were pressed into a thin line. Good, Narcissus said. Now, she will join us for the second half of this meeting. I want her to understand our world, our laws. If she is to stay under my protection, she needs to know what that means. You are bringing her here? Lucian looked surprised. Humans do not enter the catacombs. This one does, Narcissus said. Have her brought down. 10 minutes later, Luna entered the council chamber with Xavier in her arms. She looked nervous, but not terrified, her eyes taking in the stone walls and the ring of pale, red-eyed vampires watching her with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. Narcissus rose and went to her, taking her free hand and leading her to a seat beside his own. The gesture was deliberate, a clear signal to the council that she was not here as a supplicant or a prisoner, but as someone of importance. Luna, he said gently, these are the members of my inner council. They help me govern the vampire population of the Eastern Territories. They wanted to meet you. Luna swallowed, but kept her voice steady. Hello, thank you for allowing me into your home. It is technically the king's home, Evangeline said coolly. But we are pleased to make your acquaintance, Miss Zhao. For the next hour, the council questioned Luna carefully. About her background, her family, her life before Xavier was born. They were not unkind, but they were thorough, and Narcissus could see Luna growing increasingly uncomfortable under their scrutiny. Finally, Demetrius asked the question they were all thinking. Do you understand what you have become involved in, Miss Zhao? The vampire world is not safe for humans. There are those of our kind who would see you as nothing more than food. Even under the king's protection, you are at risk. I understand, Luna said quietly. But I do not have anywhere else to go, and Narcissus saved my life. I trust him. Trust, Evangeline said thoughtfully. That is a dangerous thing to give a vampire. Is it? Luna looked directly at Evangeline, and there was more steel in her voice now. He could have killed me a dozen times over by now. He could have taken me as a thrall, or a pet, or whatever you call it. But he has not. He has been kind and respectful and generous, so yes, I trust him. And if that is foolish, then I am a fool. Narcissus felt a surge of fierce pride. Luna was not cowering or pleading. She was standing her ground against some of the most powerful vampires in the territory, defending him and their relationship, whatever that relationship was. She has spirit, Lucian said, and there was approval in his voice. I like her. The question remains, Evangeline said. What happens now? How long will this arrangement last? What happens when the human grows tired of living with monsters, or when the king grows bored of his new toy? I am not a toy, Luna said sharply. And I do not grow bored of things that matter, Narcissus added. This arrangement will last as long as Luna wishes it to. She is free to leave whenever she chooses, but while she remains under my roof, she is to be treated with the same respect you would show any member of this court. I want that message spread throughout the territories. Luna Zhao and her son are mine to protect. Anyone who harms them answers to me. The finality in his voice left no room for argument. The council accepted his decree with varying degrees of grace, and the meeting was adjourned. As Narcissus escorted Luna back up to the main house, she was quiet, processing everything she had seen and heard. "That was intense," she finally said when they reached the library. "I apologize," Narcissus said. "I should have prepared you better. The council can be intimidating." "They are afraid of you," Luna said. "All of them, even the ones who seem to like you. They are terrified of making you angry." "I am the Vampire King," Narcissus said with a slight shrug. "Fear is part of how I maintain control." "Does that mean I should be afraid too?" Luna asked. She was standing very close now, Xavier asleep against her shoulder, her eyes searching Narcissus's face. "No," he said softly. "You should never fear me, Luna. I would rather cease to exist than cause you harm." "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care so much? You still have not given me a real answer." Narcissus reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her cheek with his cold hand. She did not flinch from his touch, instead leaning into it slightly. "Because when I heard you scream," he said, "something inside me that had been dead for 3 centuries woke up. Because when I held your son in my arms, I remembered what it felt like to care about something fragile and precious. Because when you look at me, you see a person, not a monster. And I have not felt like a person in a very, very long time." Luna's breath hitched. "Narcissus, I am falling in love with you," he said, the confession tearing out of him like a blade. "It is foolish and impossible and completely insane. You are human and I am not. You will age and die while I remain frozen in this moment. There can be no future for us. But I cannot stop myself from feeling it anyway." For a long moment, Luna just stared at him. Then, carefully, she transferred Xavier to one arm and reached up with her free hand to cover Narcissus's where it still rested against her cheek. "I am falling in love with you too," she said, "even though I know I should not. Even though you are right that this is impossible. I cannot help it. You saved my life. You saved my son. You have been nothing but good to us. And when I am with you, I feel safe for the first time in longer than I can remember." Narcissus closed his eyes, overwhelmed by the force of what he was feeling. "This will not be easy," he said. "My world is dangerous. There will be vampires who see you as a weakness, who will try to use you to get to me. The council already thinks I am being foolish, and eventually you will want things I cannot give you. A normal life, a normal family, someone who can stand beside you in daylight." "I do not want normal," Luna said fiercely. "Normal left me bleeding to death on a mattress in a rundown apartment. Normal abandoned me when I needed him most. You saved me. You care for me. You hold my son like he is the most precious thing in the world. That is what I want. You." Narcissus opened his eyes and looked at her, this brave, beautiful, impossible woman. And then, slowly, giving her every chance to refuse, he leaned down and kissed her. Her lips were warm against his, soft and alive. She tasted like chamomile tea and hope, and when she sighed into the kiss, Narcissus felt 300 years of ice finally begin to crack. When they finally pulled apart, Luna was smiling. "That was my first kiss since Xavier was born," she said. "I was starting to think I would never want to kiss anyone again. And now," Narcissus asked. "Now I would very much like to kiss you again," Luna said. "But my son is starting to wake up and he is going to want to eat, and I am not sure that is a good moment for romance." Narcissus laughed, an actual laugh, something he could not remember doing in years. "Fair enough. Go take care of your son. But Luna?" "Yes?" "This conversation is not over. We have much to discuss. About us, about the future, about how we make this work." "I know," Luna said. "But right now, I am just happy that we are going to try." She left him there in the library, and Narcissus stood alone in the firelight, one hand pressed against his silent chest. He could not believe what he had just done, what he had just admitted, what he had just started. He was the Vampire King, and he had just fallen hopelessly, irrevocably in love with a mortal woman. Demetrius was right. This was dangerous, but Narcissus found he did not care. For the first time in 3 centuries, he felt alive. The weeks that followed were the strangest and most wonderful of both their lives. Luna grew stronger each day, recovering fully from Xavier's birth. She fell into a routine, caring for her son, exploring the cathedral, spending her evenings with Narcissus. They talked for hours, learning everything about each other. He taught her about vampire history and culture. She told him about her own life, her dreams of becoming a teacher, the way she had fought to survive on her own after her parents died when she was 18. They were falling deeper in love with every passing day, and neither of them tried to stop it. But peace never lasted long in the vampire world. 6 weeks after Luna came to live with Narcissus, Demetrius appeared in the library one evening with news written all over his face. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. Narcissus looked up from where he had been reading to Luna and Xavier. "What kind of problem?" "The Western Lord is here, Cassius Morgrave. He requests an audience." Narcissus went very still. "Cassius is in my territory?" "He arrived an hour ago with a retinue of 20 vampires. He is waiting in the lower hall." Luna looked between the two of them, sensing the sudden tension. "Who is Cassius?" "The Lord of the Western Territories," Narcissus said. "He is old, nearly 500 years, and extremely powerful. We have maintained a careful peace for the last century, but we are not friends." "Why is he here?" Luna asked. "That," Narcissus said grimly, "is what I intend to find out. Luna, stay here. Do not leave this room until I return." "Narcissus, please." He caught her hand, squeezing gently. "I do not trust Cassius. I need to know you are safe." Luna nodded slowly. "Be careful." Narcissus kissed her forehead, then followed Demetrius down into the depths of the cathedral. Cassius Morgrave was waiting in the great hall, a tall figure in black with white hair that fell past his shoulders. His red eyes gleamed with amusement as Narcissus entered. "Narcissus," Cassius said smoothly, "thank you for receiving me on such short notice." "Cassius." Narcissus kept his voice neutral. "This is unexpected. What brings you to my territory?" "I heard a fascinating rumor," Cassius said, circling the room like a predator. "They say the great vampire king has taken a human pet, a woman with a baby, living right here in your home. I had to see it for myself." "She is not a pet," Narcissus said. "She is under my protection." "Ah, so it is true." Cassius smiled, showing fangs. "How quaint. Tell me, what does one do with a human pet, besides the obvious, of course?" "She is not a pet," Narcissus repeated, and his voice hardened. "She is important to me, and I will not have you speaking of her that way." Cassius raised an eyebrow. "Important? Narcissus, you cannot be serious. She is mortal. She will be dead in the blink of an eye. What could she possibly mean to you?" "That is none of your concern. On the contrary, it is very much my concern." Cassius stopped his pacing and faced Narcissus directly. "You are one of the most powerful vampires in this country. Your decisions affect all of us, and allowing a human to live in your home, to know our secrets, to potentially influence your decisions, that is dangerous for all of us." "Luna poses no threat," Narcissus said. "Perhaps not intentionally," Cassius agreed. "But humans are weak, Narcissus. They break easily. What happens when someone decides to use her against you? What happens when hunters discover her and force her to reveal our locations? What happens when she decides she no longer wants to play house with a vampire and runs back to the human world with everything she knows?" "That will not happen," Narcissus said. "You cannot guarantee that." Cassius moved closer. "I am not here to threaten you. I am here as a courtesy, one lord to another. I think you are making a mistake. I think you should end this before it becomes a problem. Send the human away. Wipe her memory if you must, but cut her loose before she becomes a liability." "No," Narcissus said flatly. "Then make her a thrall," Cassius suggested. "Bind her to you completely. At least then you could control what she knows and what she does. I will not take away her free will, Narcissus said. She is not a possession. Cassius sighed. Then you leave me no choice. I came here hoping to reason with you, but if you insist on keeping this human, then I must insist that she be brought before a gathering of the regional lords. Let us all see this woman who has captured the Vampire King's attention. Let us judge for ourselves whether she is a threat. Absolutely not, Narcissus said. I will not parade her before a council of vampires like some curiosity. Then I will call for a vote of no confidence in your leadership, Cassius said calmly. I will argue that you have become compromised, that your judgment is impaired, that you are no longer fit to rule the eastern territories. Some will agree with me, others will support you, but either way, it will mean war, civil war among our kind. Is that what you want? Narcissus stared at the other vampire, rage boiling just beneath the surface. But Cassius was right about one thing. A civil war would be catastrophic. Vampires killing vampires, humans discovering their existence in the chaos, centuries of careful secrecy destroyed. You would truly go that far? Narcissus asked. I would, Cassius said, because I believe you are making a mistake that will endanger us all. Prove me wrong. Bring the human to a gathering. Let her be assessed. If she is truly as harmless as you claim, then no harm done. But if she is a threat, you must deal with her. That is my offer. Take it or face the consequences. Narcissus wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed at him to throw Cassius out of his territory and damn the consequences. But he was not just a vampire in love. He was a king. He had responsibilities to more than just Luna and himself. Fine, he said finally. I will bring her to a gathering, but I set the terms. My territory, my time, my rules. Agreed, Cassius said. 1 month from now, I will spread word to the other regional lords. Let us see if your human can survive the scrutiny of her betters. When Cassius and his retinue finally left, Narcissus stood alone in the great hall, his hands clenched into fists. Demetrius approached carefully. You should not have agreed, Demetrius said quietly. I had no choice, Narcissus said. He would have started a war. I cannot allow that. But bringing Luna before the lords? Demetrius shook his head. Some of them are far worse than Cassius. They will see her as food, as sport. They will try to break her just to prove they can. Then I will make it clear that touching her means death, Narcissus said. I will protect her, no matter what. Narcissus, Demetrius said seriously, you may have to choose between her and your throne. Are you prepared for that? Narcissus looked at his old friend. If it comes to that, he said quietly, I choose her. Telling Luna was one of the hardest things Narcissus had ever done. She listened quietly as he explained about Cassius, about the gathering, about what it would mean. They want to judge me, she said when he finished. To decide if I am worthy of you. They want to decide if you are a threat. Narcissus corrected. It is not about worth. You are worth more than all of them combined. Luna smiled sadly. But you are worried. Yes, he admitted. Some of the lords are not kind. They will say and do things meant to frighten you, to make you break. I will be there, and I will protect you as much as I can. But there are limits to what I can do without starting a war. Then I will be strong, Luna said. For you. For Xavier. For us. Narcissus pulled her into his arms, holding her close despite the awkwardness of Xavier between them. I am sorry, he whispered. I am sorry I brought this into your life. You saved my life, Luna reminded him. Everything else we will figure out together. The month passed far too quickly. Narcissus spent every available moment with Luna, preparing her for what was to come. He taught her about vampire etiquette, about the different lords and their territories, about how to navigate the dangerous waters of vampire politics. But more than that, they simply enjoyed each other. Long conversations that stretched into the early morning hours. Quiet evenings watching Xavier grow and develop. Stolen kisses in the library, in the garden, wherever they could find a moment alone. Luna was falling more in love with him every day, and he with her. It made the approaching gathering both more bearable and more terrifying. Because now he had something to lose. Someone who mattered more than his throne or his power or his pride. The night before the gathering, Luna put Xavier to bed and then found Narcissus standing at the window of his chamber, looking out over the city. "You are nervous," she said, coming to stand beside him. "Terrified," he admitted. "I am 300 years old, and I have faced countless battles and threats, but the thought of putting you in danger makes me want to lock you away somewhere safe and dare anyone to try to reach you." "That would be kidnapping," Luna pointed out. "I know." He turned to face her. "Luna, if tomorrow goes badly, if they demand I send you away—" "Then you send me away," Luna said. "I will not be the reason you lose everything you have built." "You do not understand," Narcissus said. "Without you, I have nothing. I lived for 3 centuries in darkness, going through the motions of existence without feeling anything real. And then I found you, and suddenly I remembered what it meant to care, what it meant to hope. I cannot go back to that emptiness. I will not." Luna reached up and framed his face with her hands. "Then we will face this together," she said. "Whatever happens." He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of all the things he could not say, and when they finally broke apart, breathless and shaking, Luna made a decision. "Make me yours," she whispered. "Completely. I know what it means to be a vampire's thrall. You bind me to you, and I can never leave, never betray you. If that is what it takes to prove to the lords that I am not a threat, then do it." "No," Narcissus said immediately. "No, I will not take your free will from you. That is not love, Luna. That is slavery. But if it is the only way, then I will find another way," he said fiercely. "I love you too much to turn you into a puppet. I would rather lose everything than do that to you." Luna smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me." They spent that night together, not in passion but in comfort, holding each other in the darkness and pretending that tomorrow was not coming. But morning came anyway, as it always did. The gathering was held in the catacombs, in chambers even deeper than where the council usually met. The regional lords arrived throughout the day, each with their retinue of vampires. By evening, over 100 of the most powerful vampires in the country had assembled beneath the cathedral. Narcissus dressed carefully for the occasion, in black as always, but with a formal coat of dark red velvet that marked his status as king. Luna wore a gown he had chosen for her, deep blue silk that made her look like royalty. She was pale but composed as they descended into the catacombs, Xavier in her arms. The main chamber was vast, carved from natural stone and lit by hundreds of candles. The regional lords sat on thrones arranged in a semicircle, with Narcissus's throne at the center. Cassius was there, of course, along with 6 others, Seraphina Blackthorn from the north, Matthias Ravencroft from the south, Isolde Thornfield from the far west, and 3 others whose territories bordered Narcissus's own. Behind each throne stood dozens of lesser vampires, all of them watching with glowing red eyes as Narcissus entered with Luna. The silence was absolute. Every eye in the chamber fixed on the human woman and her child. Narcissus led Luna to his throne and gestured for her to sit beside him on a smaller chair that had been placed there. She did, holding Xavier close, her chin high despite her obvious fear. "My lords," Narcissus said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "Thank you for answering my summons. We are here to address concerns that have been raised about Luna Zhao, a human under my protection. I have brought her before you so that you may judge for yourselves whether she poses any threat to our kind." "How generous," Seraphina drawled. She was beautiful in the terrible way of old vampires, with white skin and hair and eyes like blood. "But I think we would all like to know why she is under your protection at all." "What is she to you, Narcissus?" "She is important to me," Narcissus said carefully. "Important how?" Matthias asked. He was blunt and direct, a warrior more than a politician. "A pet? A lover? A potential mate?" "Someone I care deeply about," Narcissus said. That is not an answer, Cassius said. Are you in love with this human, Narcissus? Because if you are, that raises serious questions about your judgment. Narcissus felt Luna's hand slip into his. He looked down at her, and she nodded, giving him permission. Yes, he said clearly. I love her. The chamber erupted in noise, vampires shouting questions, arguing amongst themselves, some looking scandalized and others merely curious. The lords called for silence, and gradually the chamber settled. Extraordinary, Isolde said. She was one of the oldest, nearly 600 years, and her voice was like ice over steel. A vampire king falls in love with a mortal. This is unprecedented. It is foolish, Seraphina snapped. She will be dead in 50 years, if that. What then, Narcissus? Will you pine for her for the rest of eternity? Will you make rash decisions based on your grief? What I do after Luna's death is my concern, Narcissus said. Right now, she is alive, and she is mine to protect. Unless you turn her, Matthias said thoughtfully. Make her one of us. Then she would live as long as you. Luna's hand tightened on Narcissus's. That option had been discussed between them late at night when they thought no one else could hear. But it was not a simple choice. Turning a human is a serious matter, Narcissus said. It is not a decision to be made lightly. And yet you gave her your blood once already, Cassius said. Our spies reported it. She should have died in childbirth, but you saved her with your blood. You have already begun the process. I gave her my blood to save her life, Narcissus said. Not to turn her. There is a difference. Is there? Cassius stood and walked toward Luna, who watched him with wary eyes. Tell me, Miss Zhao, do you wish to become a vampire? To live forever with your undead lover? To feed on human blood and hide from the sun? Luna looked up at him steadily. I do not know, she said honestly. I have thought about it, but it is not a decision I am ready to make. Because she is scared, Seraphina said dismissively, as all mortals are when faced with eternity. No, Luna said, her voice stronger, because I have a son to think about. If I become a vampire, I cannot walk in sunlight. I cannot take Xavier to the park, or to school, or to any of the normal places a child should go. I would have to find someone else to care for him during the day, to be the parent I cannot be. And that, her voice cracked, that terrifies me more than death. There was a moment of silence. Then Isolde spoke, and there was something almost like respect in her voice. She thinks of her child first, Isolde said. That is admirable. Tell me, Miss Zhao, what will you do when your son grows up and asks questions about his mother's vampire lover, when he realizes what you have become involved in? I will tell him the truth, Luna said. That Narcissus saved both our lives, that he has been good to us, that love is complicated and messy and does not always make sense, but that does not make it less real. Pretty words, Cassius said, but words mean nothing. Actions matter, and the action before us is simple. This human knows our secrets. She lives among us. She has access to the Vampire King himself. She is a security risk. The only way to neutralize that risk is to either bind her as a thrall, turn her into one of us, or remove her from the equation entirely. By remove you mean kill, Narcissus said, his voice deadly quiet. If necessary, Cassius said without flinching. Narcissus stood, and the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Let me be very clear. If anyone in this room touches Luna Zhao or her child, I will consider it an act of war. I will hunt down everyone involved, and I will destroy them utterly. That is not a threat. That is a promise. You would go to war over a human? Seraphina looked genuinely shocked. Yes, Narcissus said simply. I would. Then you are a fool, Cassius said, and a compromised one. I call for a vote of no confidence. All in favor of removing Narcissus Corvinus from his position as Lord of the Eastern Territories indicate now. 3 hands went up, Cassius, Seraphina, and one of the minor lords. All opposed, 4 hands. Matthias, Isolde, and the other 2 minor lords. The motion fails, Isolde said. Narcissus retains his position, but barely. This is not over, Cassius said. The question remains, what do we do about the human? I have a proposal, Luna said suddenly. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. She stood, still holding Xavier, and faced the assembled lords with more courage than Narcissus had ever seen from a mortal. You are afraid I will betray your secrets, she said. That I will tell the human world about vampires and bring hunters down on you all. I understand that fear, but I offer you this. Let me prove myself. Give me time 1 year to demonstrate that I am not a threat. Let me live with Narcissus, learn your ways, show you that I can be trusted. And if at the end of that year you still believe I am a danger, then—" She swallowed hard. "Then I will accept whatever judgment you make." "An interesting proposal," Isolde said. "But what guarantee do we have that you will not run to the authorities the moment you leave this chamber?" "My son," Luna said. "Xavier, if I betray you, I know what will happen to him. I would never put him at risk. He is my guarantee." "You would gamble your child's life on your own trustworthiness?" Matthias sounded intrigued. "I would gamble it on the belief that you are not all monsters," Luna said. "That you have some sense of honor. Narcissus has been nothing but honorable with me. I have to believe the rest of you are capable of the same." There was a long silence. Then Isolde stood. "I support this proposal," she said. 1 year. Let the human prove herself. If she succeeds, we accept her as the king's consort, with all the protections that entails. If she fails, we deal with her. Agreed?" One by one, the other lords nodded. Even Cassius, though his expression was sour. "Agreed," he said. 1 year. But know this, Miss Zhao. I will be watching. And the moment you prove to be the threat I believe you are, I will be the first to call for your execution." "Understood," Luna said calmly. The gathering dissolved after that, the lords and their retinues departing into the night. When they were finally alone, Narcissus pulled Luna into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "That was incredibly brave and incredibly foolish," he said into her hair. "I know," Luna said, "but it was the only way. They would never have agreed to let me stay otherwise." 1 year, Narcissus said. "We have 1 year to convince them you are not a threat." "Then we had better make it count," Luna said. The year that followed was difficult, but also beautiful. Luna threw herself into learning everything she could about vampire culture and society. She attended council meetings, met with various members of Narcissus's court, and slowly began to earn their respect. She was smart and thoughtful and refused to be intimidated, and gradually even the most skeptical vampires began to accept her presence. Xavier grew, reaching all the normal milestones. His first smile, his first laugh, learning to roll over and then to sit up. Narcissus was there for all of it, as devoted to the child as he was to the mother. He held Xavier during the night when Luna was too exhausted to wake, fed him bottles of expressed milk, changed diapers with the same efficiency he brought to ruling a vampire court. "You are better at this than I am," Luna said one night, watching as Narcissus rocked Xavier back to sleep after a particularly difficult bout of crying. "I have had practice," Narcissus said. "In my human life, I helped care for my younger sisters. Some things you do not forget, even after 3 centuries. "Do you miss them?" Luna asked softly. "Your family?" "Every day," Narcissus admitted. "I think about them often. What became of them, whether they had happy lives. My sisters would be long dead now, of course, as would their children and grandchildren. But somewhere out there, I probably have descendants I will never know." "I am sorry," Luna said, "that you lost them." "So am I," Narcissus said. "But I have you now, you and Xavier, a new family, different from what I had before, but no less precious." 6 months into their year of probation, something shifted between them. Luna had recovered fully from childbirth, and Xavier was sleeping through the night more often than not. They had time alone together, real time, and the tension that had been building between them finally reached a breaking point. It happened late one night in the library. They had been reading together, sitting close on the sofa, when Luna set down her book and turned to Narcissus. "I want you," she said simply. "I have wanted you for months, but I was afraid." "Of me?" Narcissus asked, his voice rough. "Of losing myself," Luna said. "Of getting so lost in you that I forget who I am. But I realize now that is not going to happen. You do not want to consume me. You want to be with me. There is a difference." Narcissus set down his own book very carefully. "Luna, if we do this, there is no going back. I cannot be casual about you. I am not built that way. You will be mine, completely and utterly, and I will be yours the same way." "Good," Luna said, "because I do not want casual either. I want everything with you." He kissed her then, and it was different from all the kisses that had come before, deeper, hungrier, full of months of pent-up desire. Luna responded with equal passion, her fingers tangling in his white hair, her body pressing against his. "Not here," Narcissus said against her lips. "My chambers. I want to do this properly." He carried her up the stairs, moving at human speed so as not to startle her. His chambers were vast and elegant, dominated by a huge bed draped in dark blue velvet. He set her down gently and then just looked at her, drinking in the sight of her flushed face and bright eyes. "You are beautiful," he said. "So impossibly beautiful." "So are you," Luna said. "Terrible and beautiful and mine." They came together on the bed, shedding clothes and inhibitions with equal haste. Narcissus was careful with her, achingly gentle despite the hunger burning through his veins. He explored every inch of her skin with hands and lips, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch into his touch. When they finally joined, it felt like coming home. Luna cried out, clutching at his shoulders, and Narcissus buried his face in her neck, overwhelmed by the intensity of what he was feeling. Love and desire, and a fierce primal need to claim her completely. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, Luna's head on his chest, despite the lack of heartbeat. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you so much I do not have words for it." "I love you too," Narcissus said, pressing a kiss to her hair. "More than I have ever loved anything in 300 years. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and for the first time since becoming a vampire, Narcissus felt truly at peace. But peace never lasted long. The attack came 3 weeks before the year was up. Narcissus was out dealing with a border dispute when it happened. A group of rogue vampires, hired by someone who wanted Luna dead, broke into the cathedral in broad daylight, taking advantage of the fact that most of Narcissus's guards were nocturnal. Luna was in the library with Xavier when she heard the commotion, shouts, crashes, the sound of fighting. She grabbed her son and ran, heading for the panic room Narcissus had insisted on installing. But she was not fast enough. A vampire appeared in the doorway, pale and wild-eyed, blood on his hands. "There you are," he hissed. "The king's little pet. Come here." Luna backed away, clutching Xavier against her chest. "Stay back." "Or what?" The vampire advanced. "You are human. You cannot hurt me." But Luna had not been idle during her months in the vampire world. She had learned, had prepared. Her hand closed around the silver knife she now carried everywhere, blessed and sharp. When the vampire lunged for Xavier, Luna moved. She drove the knife into his chest, not deep enough to kill but enough to hurt. The vampire screamed and stumbled back, giving Luna the opening she needed to run. She made it to the panic room and sealed the door just as more vampires arrived. Through the reinforced walls, she could hear them trying to break in, howling with frustration. Luna fumbled for her phone and called Narcissus. He answered on the first ring. "Luna, what is wrong?" "Vampires," she gasped. "In the cathedral. They are trying to kill me. I am in the panic room, but I do not know how long." "I am coming," Narcissus said, and the line went dead. He arrived less than 10 minutes later, moving faster than he ever had before. The rogue vampires did not stand a chance. Narcissus tore through them like a force of nature, killing with brutal efficiency. By the time Demetrius and the other guards arrived, it was over. Narcissus pulled open the panic room door and found Luna huddled in the corner, Xavier crying in her arms, her eyes wide with terror. "It is over," he said gently, kneeling before her. "You are safe. I have you." Luna threw herself into his arms, sobbing. "They tried to take Xavier. They tried to kill us." "I know," Narcissus said. "I know. I am so sorry. I should have been here." "You could not have known," Luna said. "But Narcissus, who sent them? Who wants me dead?" That was the question. And over the next few days, as Narcissus interrogated the survivors and investigated the attack, the answer became clear. Cassius. It had been Cassius all along, hiring rogue vampires to kill Luna and make it look like the work of human hunters. He had gambled that without Luna, Narcissus would lose his focus, would become easier to challenge and defeat. He had gambled wrong. Narcissus called for a gathering of the lords, and this time it was not a request. When they assembled in the catacombs, he stood before them with cold fury in his eyes. "Cassius Morgrave has violated our most sacred laws," he said. "He hired assassins to kill a human under my protection. He endangered us all by bringing rogues into my territory. He attempted to murder a child. For these crimes, I challenge him, trial by combat, to the death." Cassius stood, his face twisted with rage. "You cannot prove anything." "I have witnesses," Narcissus said. "I have evidence. But more than that, I have the right as king to demand satisfaction. Will you accept my challenge, or will you be branded a coward as well as a traitor?" Cassius had no choice. Refusing would mean losing all status and power. He accepted, and the fight was set for the following night. Luna watched from the safety of Narcissus's throne as the two vampires faced each other in the center of the chamber. Narcissus was younger, but he was stronger, fueled by righteous anger and love. The fight was brutal and swift. Cassius was skilled, but he was not prepared for the sheer ferocity of Narcissus's attack. Within minutes, Narcissus had Cassius pinned to the ground, his hand wrapped around the other vampire's throat. "Any last words?" Narcissus asked. "She will be your downfall," Cassius gasped. "That human. She will destroy you." "No," Narcissus said. "She will save me." Then he tore out Cassius's heart and ended it. The chamber was silent as Narcissus stood, Cassius's body crumbling to ash at his feet. He looked around at the assembled lords and vampires. "Let this be a lesson," he said. "Luna Zhao is under my protection. She has proven herself worthy. She fought off attackers to protect her child. She has kept our secrets despite every opportunity to betray us. She is brave and loyal and kind, and I love her. Anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me now. Otherwise, she is to be treated as my consort, with all the respect and protection that title entails. Is that clear?" No one challenged him. One by one, the lords stood and bowed, acknowledging Luna as Narcissus's chosen mate. When the gathering ended, Narcissus carried Luna back up to his chambers. She was shaking, the events of the past few days finally catching up with her. "It is over," Narcissus said, holding her close. "You are safe. Xavier is safe. Cassius is gone. You have nothing left to prove." "I was so scared," Luna whispered. "When they came for Xavier, all I could think was that I had to protect him, that I could not let them hurt him." "You were magnificent," Narcissus said. "You fought back. You kept him safe until I could get there. You are the bravest person I have ever known." "I am not brave," Luna said. "I am terrified of this world, of the danger, of what could happen to Xavier." "Then leave," Narcissus said, even though the words tore him apart. "If you are truly afraid, if this is too much, then go. I will make sure you have money, protection, everything you need. I love you too much to keep you here if you are miserable." Luna pulled back and looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "You would let me go, even though it would destroy you?" "I would let you go because it would destroy me to see you unhappy," Narcissus said. "Your well-being matters more than my happiness. If you need to leave, I will not stop you." "I do not want to leave," Luna said. "I want to stay, with you, forever." "Forever is a long time," Narcissus said carefully. I know, Luna said. And I know what you are asking, if I want to become like you, to be turned. I am not asking, Narcissus said. I would never ask that of you. It has to be your choice. Luna was quiet for a long moment, thinking. If I became a vampire, she said slowly, I could not be the mother Xavier needs, not during the day. He would need someone else to care for him while I slept, someone human, someone who could take him into the sunlight. I have already thought of that, Narcissus said. There is a woman, a retired teacher who lives nearby. She is kind and trustworthy, and she knows nothing of vampires. I could hire her as Xavier's nanny to care for him during the day. You would still be his mother, Luna. You would still be there for him, just not every single moment. Would that be enough? Luna asked. For him? For me? I do not know, Narcissus admitted. But Luna, you do not have to decide now. You are still young. You have years before you even start to age. We have time. But not forever, Luna said. If I stay human, I will die. In 50 years, maybe less. And you will go on without me. Then I will cherish every moment of those 50 years, Narcissus said. And when you are gone, I will carry your memory with me for the rest of eternity. That will have to be enough. Luna kissed him, soft and sweet. I love you, she said. And I do not have an answer yet about being turned, but I promise I will think about it. That is all I can ask, Narcissus said. 2 years passed, 2 years of peace and happiness and growing love. Xavier grew into a bright, curious toddler. Luna continued to integrate herself into vampire society, becoming a trusted advisor to Narcissus and a respected figure in her own right. The other lords accepted her, and some even came to like her. And every night, Luna fell asleep in Narcissus's arms, safe and loved and content. But as Xavier's 3rd birthday approached, Luna made her decision. She found Narcissus in his study one evening, working through reports from his territories. When she entered, he looked up and smiled. Luna, I was just thinking about you. I need to talk to you, she said, about something important. He set down his papers immediately, giving her his full attention. What is it? Luna took a deep breath. I want to be turned. I want to become a vampire. Narcissus went very still. Are you certain? Luna, once it is done, it cannot be undone. You will never walk in daylight again. You will never age. You will have to drink blood to survive. Your entire existence will change. I know, Luna said. I have thought about nothing else for 2 years, and I am certain. I want to spend forever with you, Narcissus. I want to be your mate in truth, not just in name. I want to learn everything, see everything, do everything with you. And yes, I will miss the sunlight. And yes, it will be hard not being there for Xavier every moment. But you were right. We hired Marguerite, and she is wonderful with him. He loves her. And I will still be his mother. I will still be there for him, just in a different way. What does Xavier think? Narcissus asked. He does not understand yet, Luna said.
He is too young. But as he grows, I will explain it to him. And I think he will understand, because he has never known a life without you in it. To him, you are as much his father as anyone could be. Narcissus crossed the room and took her hands.
If I do this, I am going to bind you to me forever. You will be my mate, my consort, my equal. In vampire society, that means something. It means we are connected in every way possible. Our lives, our fates, our very souls intertwined. Good, Luna said. That is exactly what I want. Then I will do it, Narcissus said. But not tonight. We will do this properly. We will have a ceremony, with the court as witnesses. I want everyone to know that you chose this, that you wanted to be one of us. 1 month later, the ceremony was held in the great hall of the cathedral. All of Narcissus's court was there, along with representatives from the other territories. Luna wore white, a nod to human wedding traditions, while Narcissus wore black with accents of deep red. The ceremony itself was simple. Luna knelt before Narcissus, and he spoke the ancient words that would bind them together. Then he bit into his wrist and offered it to her. "Drink," he said, 3 times, "and on the third you will die as a human and be reborn as one of us." Luna did not hesitate. She drank once, feeling the power flood through her. Twice, and her vision began to sharpen, her senses expanding. And then a third time, and the world went dark. When she woke, everything was different. Colors were brighter, sounds were sharper, and she could hear heartbeats from blocks away. But most of all, she could feel Narcissus, a constant presence in the back of her mind, their connection now deeper than anything she had ever experienced. "How do you feel?" he asked, helping her to her feet. "Incredible," Luna breathed. "Is this what you feel all the time?" "This and more," Narcissus said. "Welcome to immortality, my love." The court celebrated late into the night, and when it was finally over, Narcissus carried Luna up to their chambers. She moved with new grace, her body adjusting to its enhanced abilities. "I need to feed," she said, and there was wonder in her voice. "I can feel it, the hunger." "I will teach you," Narcissus promised, "how to hunt, how to choose donors, how to take only what you need without causing harm. You will never have to kill, Luna. I swear it." "I know," Luna said. "I trust you." They fed together that night, Narcissus guiding her through her first hunt. It was strange and exhilarating and terrifying all at once, but with him beside her, Luna felt safe. And when they returned to the cathedral as the sun began to rise, sealing themselves away from the light, Luna looked at Narcissus and smiled. "Forever," she said. "We have forever now." "Yes," Narcissus agreed, pulling her into his arms. "Forever." 20 years passed in what felt like the blink of an eye. Xavier grew into a fine young man, smart and kind and well-adjusted despite his unusual upbringing. He knew what his mother and Narcissus were, had known since he was old enough to understand, and he loved them both without reservation. He went to college, fell in love, started a career. Luna watched it all with a bittersweet mixture of pride and sorrow. She was his mother, but she could never be there during the day. She missed school plays and baseball games and all the normal things human mothers experienced, but she was there for the important things: birthdays, graduations, the night he introduced them to his girlfriend, the night he told them he was getting married. "I am so proud of you," Luna said, hugging her son tightly. At 23, he was taller than her now, but she would always see him as the tiny baby she had fought so hard to bring into the world. "I could not have done any of this without you," Xavier said. "You and Narcissus. You gave me the best life I could have asked for." "Even though your mother is a vampire?" Luna asked with a small smile. "Especially because of that," Xavier said. "Do you know how cool it is to tell people my mom is immortal? Though I leave out the vampire part. That tends to raise questions." Narcissus laughed, clapping Xavier on the shoulder. "You are a good man, Xavier. I am honored to have watched you grow up." "You are my father in every way that matters," Xavier said seriously. "I hope you know that." "I do," Narcissus said, and there was emotion in his voice. "And I am grateful for it. Every day." Xavier's wedding was held at dusk, timed so that Luna and Narcissus could attend. It was beautiful and joyful, and as Luna watched her son exchange vows with the woman he loved, she felt overwhelming gratitude. She had been so close to losing everything. That night, 23 years ago, dying alone in a shabby apartment, convinced she would never see her baby grow up. But Narcissus had saved her. He had given her life and love and a future beyond anything she could have imagined. "Thank you," she whispered to him as they watched Xavier and his bride share their first dance. "For what?" Narcissus asked. "For breaking down that door," Luna said. "For saving us, for loving us, for giving me forever." Narcissus smiled and pulled her close. "I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Well, metaphorically speaking." Luna laughed and rested her head on his shoulder. Around them, the wedding celebration continued, full of life and love and hope for the future, and she knew that no matter what came next, no matter what challenges they would face over the centuries ahead, they would face them together. Forever was a long time. But with Narcissus beside her, it would never be long enough. Years turned into decades. Xavier had children of his own, and Luna and Narcissus became grandparents in every way that mattered. They watched generations come and go, always there in the background, unchanging guardians of their family line. The vampire world continued to evolve. New lords rose and fell. New challenges emerged and were overcome. But through it all, Narcissus and Luna ruled the Eastern territories with wisdom and compassion, proving that love between a vampire and a human, or between two vampires who had once been human, was not a weakness but a strength. They became a legend in both worlds. The vampire king who had broken down a door to save a dying woman, the woman who had fought off assassins to protect her child. The love that had survived impossible odds and changed the course of vampire history. And on quiet nights, when they stood together looking out over the city they had sworn to protect, Luna would sometimes think back to that moment in the shabby apartment. The moment when she had been certain she was going to die. The moment when a pale, inhuman figure had crashed through her door and offered her a miracle. She had been dying in labor with no one beside her, and the vampire king had broken down the door and saved them both. Not just their lives, but their futures, their love, their eternity. And every day, for the rest of forever, Luna was grateful.